Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our Technologies of the Future weekly webinar with live Q&A. We are coming to you with a passage about memory overload this morning, and I'm going to read from the book Sapiens. You can see my copy is very well loved there. And chapter 7, for anyone who likes to follow along. Evolution did not endow humans with the ability to play football. True, it produced legs for kicking, elbows for fouling, and mouths for cursing, but all that and this enables us to do is perhaps practice penalty kicks by ourselves. To get into a game with strangers, we find in the schoolyard on any given afternoon, we not only have to work in concert with 10 teammates we may have never met before, we also need to know that the 11 players on the opposing team are playing by the same rules. Other animals that engage strangers in ritualized aggression do so largely by instinct. Puppies throughout the world have the rules for rough and tumble play hardwired into their genes. But human teenagers have no genes for football. They can nevertheless play the game with complete strangers because they have all learned an identical set of ideas about football. These ideas are entirely imaginary, but if everyone shares them, we can all play the game. The same applies on a larger scale to kingdoms, churches, and trade networks, with one important difference. The rules of football are relatively simple and concise, much like those necessary for cooperation in a forager band or small village. Each player can easily store them in his brain and still have room for songs, images, shopping lists. But large systems of cooperation that involve not 22, but thousands or even millions of humans require the handling and storage of huge amounts of information, much more than any single human brain can contain and process. So this was quite relevant because I was having a little overwhelm session the other day, and I was like, oh my goodness, I want to learn this and I want to learn that. And we were talking about quantum computing with a startup team from UTS, and I was just thinking to myself, how do I fit all of this into my brain? I was way overloaded, and I thought this is a perfect topic for this morning. So do you guys want to kick us off with the one word opener?
Go first, Brendan.
Ah, amazing. Look at the weather outside.
Yeah, I'm deeply appreciative as well. Yeah, appreciating that we have the opportunity to hear from the amazing humans on this planet around all the technologies that they're working on. And so it's not just an individual that has to do it. We are part of this whole network that has actually built it out. So yeah, in a sense, very grateful and optimistic and really happy that it's here.
I love it. And Brendan, you're at the ICC this morning.
Yeah, I'm going to the IBM conference here to have a look. They got some interesting stuff on quantum computers, which I'm very excited about. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So I'm just about 20 meters over that way. Found a nice place in the sun. But yeah, like Peter was saying, right? Like it says, the amazing thing is all this technology that we've got, everyone's sort of on the same page. And looking forward to making things better, democratizing it, demonetizing it, etc. Right? And I think with all the bad things happening in the world, I think at least with these sort of things, you've looked at the technology and stuff, you've actually got everyone actually looking with like hope, right? And so I think that's the big takeaway here. Like all the bad things in the world, we have hope. We can direct our destinies just as long as everyone gets along for the ride. And then, of course, we've got that symbiosis of all this tech and the people and the excitement, and that hope is contagious, right? So now you can see, oh yeah, we've got all these problems, but we have the ability to solve them if we just work together and cooperate.
I love that. That relates to that systems thinking. And I love actually from the book, Buckminster Fuller and an operating manual for Spaceship Earth, he talks about general systems thinking and how do you actually just keep raising a level of thinking. So if you're thinking about a challenge, what's the largest sort of scale macro view that you could take on that challenge just to put things into perspective?
Yeah, that's definitely right. And the complexity that we're facing now as a society, we definitely need all the help we can get to. So these AI agents and companions and really, leveraging technology, we're already kind of doing that, right? We're offloading the memories to Google Maps and calendars and able to communicate across the world through email and video. And all of this is enabling us to do more. And you know, not only so like learning about all these different things, we would never have had that opportunity, you know, back in the systems of the world, and you know, not been exposed to those ideas. But now people are able to travel around the world and meet people in person, connect online, and share these ideas and communicate things like quantum computing and what's happening in that space. That was really exciting to actually be able to do with you as well.
Actually, a really tactical, cool thing that I did this week was actually with ChatGPT 4 and enabled the plugins. So I'm not sure if our listeners, if you haven't yet, check out ChatGPT 4 and enable plugins. I chose one that was Ask PDF and Link Reader. And I actually had a whole heap of documents. There was probably 4 Google Docs that were really long, quite technical project plans around an R&D project, and was just talking to ChatGPT and what about this? And now answer this question, now answer that question. And it was incredible because it could remember everything from all of those links. And I could just ask it direct questions, which was just so efficient compared to using my human brain and trying to remember where things were stored, what was said where, and how I can bring it in. It was just like, here's a whole heap of information now, you know, that I said earlier, but I can't really remember what I did. ChatGPT in 3 seconds can just recite back everything that I've done for the past few years.
It's like memory analytics, right? To give me the TLDR of this particular thing that's relevant in this particular context. Dude, and Brennan's been working on some of these as well and looking at the LLMs, image creation as well. That SDXL 1.0 just came out. Things like what we think might happen when you can combine your digital identity on that as well. Say WorldCoin being able to scan your iris. Well, this is uniquely you, but then how do you create a digital twin of you? Well, it had to authenticate that that is actually you, right? So this is starting to all come together in one single source of companion app. And marrying that with OpenAI will be interesting to access that to enhance that memory analytics.
Yeah, I suppose that's like the WorldCoin idea. If they scan you as a unique human, can somewhat mitigate some of the effects of the identity theft that people are worried about with these people cloning your voice and then pretending you to be one of a loved one. There's a bit of a scam going on at the moment where people are using these things to pretend that they're a daughter or a family member who's got in trouble and they're trying to get you to pay money.
I got impersonated on Instagram. Someone says like a Peter's X with 1 NG. It's got more followers than me. It's got every single post that it's ever shared. And it's like copying the Australian type of wording. It's like, hey, mate. It's like, what the hell's going on? But yeah, it's starting to get there, right?
Yeah. But that WorldCoin idea.
When you've been imitated.
Yeah, don't send that person Bitcoin. They're talking about some crypto trading platform that doesn't know anything about transhuman coins. So yeah, obviously there's something wrong with them.
Yeah, exactly.
What are the polarized thoughts on memory of going back of just your human brain versus all of this that we have access to now? Any thoughts of anyone out there that just wants to go back with no technology and live the simple life?
I couldn't even imagine it, right?
Yeah,
because I think as you I had some sort of discussions with one of a friend of mine a few years ago about how they didn't like the way the system is and they wish they could go back to the old days. And I thought, well, I don't think we could actually survive anymore because as you get better technology, you become dependent on technology, right? And so once you try to get rid of it, how can you even cope, right? Like we can't remember. Or we don't have the basic skills because we rely on other people to have the basic skills that we don't have, right? And so if you take computers away from the thing, who actually knows how to do all the things without computers, right? Because most of the machinery that we use to build things are all created with computers, right? And so I think we've got to the point where going back's not really an option unless, of course, you want to like thin part of the population down or something like that, which is not a good idea, right? So we've become dependent on the tools that we've invented, right? And there really is no rollback in a nice, graceful way, is what I'm saying. Yeah.
And we also underappreciate it as soon as we have it. We get used to ChatGPT almost like right now that we have access to that technology. If you went back to say, let's say the dark ages, I mean, infant mortality, come on, like average living age of 40 years. I don't think you really want to have all the other downsides, even though you're sort of accustomed to all these things. It feels like just a day to day. And now we're at a time when, we just got back from the blockchain APAC conference that we're talking about where this technology is going, the marriage of, say, AI and blockchain, and this whole concept of legal personhood, right? Associating, this whole concept of the legal entity of being a person. Well, I think they're actually starting to talk about extending that to AIs. So this is because eventually the AIs will actually do things in an autonomous way. And we're sort of taken that for granted. We said, like, we're going to just allocate what we want, and eventually that AI will start to create subtasks, and those tasks will be done by sub agents. And eventually you can actually just have this centralized autonomous organizations to do it. And the discussion was that, well, if the person, say, invented the internet, right? Like, would it be the person that invented the internet's fault that all this is happening on all the scams is happening on the internet? Like, is it the OG's Tim Berners-Lee's fault for inventing the internet that all this has happened? And if you were the creator, the launcher of an autonomous AI agent, is it your fault what the AI then does? And so they're looking at how to mitigate that through legislating, extending the legal personhood to AI agents as a recommendation, because that is the future we're heading towards. We're going to have an era of abundance that's created through embodied AI being able to do things like the boring, repetitive, and dangerous tasks in the world. And that's something to look forward to, right? Not something I think that we should be scared of as well. As long as we can align it to our needs and it's doing it for humanity, and eventually we get along for the ride too.
Yeah, if I pair it back all the way to something basic such as fruit or agriculture and farming, I saw this week a really cool visual AI that was actually scanning every plant. It was a big machinery that had a laser, and it was laser zapping all of the weeds. So essentially, it was visually recognizing and then if it recognized a weed, it would use a laser and it would zap it. And so you sort of think about this, and if you go back, 10 years, people still didn't like imperfections on their fruit or vegetables. They like them all to look perfect and in the same way. And we've kind of become accustomed to things being delivered and served in a certain way. And so if you're using AI for that, and then even pair that with the blockchain, so the source of where your food is coming from, but then just the nutritional value, and AI to know if it's going to be good for your body or not. So I imagine with our augmented reality glasses that we might have a traffic light system like red, orange, green of whether or not whatever you're about to consume is good for you, or if it's a sometimes food. So
sometimes. Yeah, definitely.
It's like those things, we could totally get dependent on and rely on. And we're going down this path with technology that if you focus on the things that are actually good, or, park that for a second and think about health. And like you said, Peter, the average life expectancy used to be 40. And if you have a loved one that's not well, you're going to want to use technology, and you're going to want to have the memory of not just one human, but the entire knowledge base to be able to give that person the best care.
Yeah.
I think if we focus on those things, it gets a little bit less scary.
Yeah, I think that's a directed use of technology though, right? Because some people have got the false idea that technology brought us into these problems, and therefore the solution is to remove the technology. But that's not the intelligent way of doing it. The intelligent way is say, well, okay, we've got this problem, but can we use that technology to solve the problems that we created? So in other words, the lasers zapping the plants, it's only zapping the weeds, which means you don't need to use pesticides, right? You don't need to use herbicides, right? Because I'm sure they can zap bugs too, right? so now you've got elimination of the pollution that you're putting into the soil, right? The AI can then look at the quality of the plants and maybe can use less fertilizer, so you get less runoff into your rivers and all this other stuff. So we can use this technology to actually reverse some of the damage we've done to the land by using smart use of this technology. Of course, obviously it's down to who is choosing to use the technology in what way, but technology is the way to get us out of this mess that we've got ourselves into.
Yeah, and it's so easy to fall into that trap, right? Of like thinking around the deep problems you're solving for here and now, but not look up and saying, okay, maybe this automation is enabling to do things in a different way. Because at the end of the day, what is the economy? It's about providing goods and services. And if the AI is able to do that and humanity gets an allocation of share those resources, that's the future of abundance we want to create, not this fear of, say, losing your job, because, it's probably good that we can actually not have to do all the boring, repetitive, and dangerous things there.
So I have to ask you both a question, because you're both technically brilliant. How do you keep up with the latest of what's happening and not get overwhelmed?
Yeah.
You can't.
We've built out a pretty good algorithms on social.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
the big tech companies have done a pretty good job in terms of recommendation engines of AI Twitter, crypto Twitter. Some of the things that are in our feed, probably like Brendan was looking at on Reddit in terms of the threads that you're following. Tech memes, great, just to make sure you don't miss out on anything huge in terms of breakthroughs, like with the WorldCoin launch. At the end of the day, that was about how do we actually deliver a universal basic income without the potential limitations of a cyber attack, right? Basically having multiple wallets to receive those UBI, which is at the end of the day what you don't want. And how do we actually create a global digital identity? And from that was actually going to be funded through the excess profits from OpenAI. OpenAI was originally a non-profit and set up a for-profit structure that's capped at a certain return amount multiplier for the investors, and anything above that was meant to fund, say, a UBI. And so that sort of that sort of seeing that technology develop on a day-to-day basis, right? Getting your feed, waking up every morning and saying, oh wait, there's a new model out. Llama 2 got launched. You got Stable Diffusion XL 1.0 just launched. WorldCoin just launched. It just feels like Singularity is getting nearer because we're in those feeds and recommendation algorithms and seeing that happening. Whereas the rest of the population might see in the Sydney Morning Herald, oh, some shootings happened in this particular southwest suburb. And it's like, oh no, there's more shootings. And so, it is very similar to, that's sort of what includes in your news diet, and just to see how you can see the world in a positive way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but one thing you've got to be careful of is information overload, right? Because if you ascribe to too much, you'll get pretty much everything, right? And there's literally like every day, like in like maybe a couple of years back, you're lucky to get one interesting news thing every week where something was truly revolutionary. Now it's daily, right? And multiple things per day. And so I suppose what you need to do is take a little bit of a step back and then just look at stuff that looks to be reasonable, right? Like the big things, and then maybe curate it down to a little bit, because at the moment, like there's some days like 21 new announcements, right? And that's normal now, where before it used to be like 7 things or top 10 things that happen in a week. Now it's 21 per day. So you've got to not try to fall into the trap about getting inflated. And I was just saying the other day to someone that what used to be amazing for us before, maybe last year, is now pretty much meh. You see this breakthrough and it's like, well, it's not quite as exciting as it was yesterday. It's still amazing. Like last year would have been front pages of the newspaper. Now it's just like, meh, right? You know what I mean? So there's just so much information. So you can use some of these AI tools to basically summarize it and break it down to the things. So you can use these tools to basically help you cope with that excess information and keep the excitement up without overloading your brain and falling into that trap.
Yeah. Interesting when you say, oh, you heard news, and you're like, and like one of the most exciting things that I heard this year was around they made a baby mouse from the skin cells of 2 daddy mice. I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. But like, we know we can do all that kind of stuff. We cloned, Dolly the sheep. We cloned a sheep years and years ago. What was that, like 11, 12 years ago? So we know we can do all these things. So it's just like, oh, wow, they've done that now.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, tick the box. Yeah.
I do like that you mentioned the word diet, Peter, and I heard there was an incredible TED talk, and it was information as food. And I can't remember who it's from, but it's a 7-minute TED talk, and you can search information as food. and it'll pop up. And the idea and concept was that we're at the buffet every day of food. So let's say you go to the buffet and you have all of these choices, and, you know, how do you actually not be overweight when, you know, the biggest things that are advertised or that taste good is sugar. And so you've got donuts constantly advertised all the time, but people actually have made a conscious choice on what they purchase and what they buy and what they eat. And if you think about that conscious diet, you know, my sister-in-law used to say a healthy trolley is a healthy body. And it's like, okay, well, you're making conscious choices all the time. And those 30,000, 40,000 decisions that you make a day subconsciously are all happening. And so how do we then relate that to information and make conscious choices about what we consume? Because negative is always the sugar. Always, oh, this happened or that happened. And it's like, okay, I don't want the sugar. I want the actual healthy information. And I want to subconsciously decide that, especially if you're scrolling and the algorithms serving you things that are not part of your diet. How do you retrain that algorithm so that they know that you're on a health kick?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's almost like, it's like your social media feed is almost like the PTs you signed up. Is it a PT or is it the you know, all you can eat subscriptions? It's so good.
Yeah. Well, some of the social media though, they serve you things that are outside of your selection list, right? Just in case you want to click on it and watch it, right? Yeah, exactly, right. So that's like a trap that they try to get you to go outside that window, right? But I think we've got to be getting out of the outrage culture, right? And that's basically what newspapers are. They're outrage culture. They show you these killings and these murders and all these horrible things happening because they know it makes people angry and they know it makes people engaged, right? We need to switch that around. I think that's what's great thing about the tech culture. Okay, there is bad things happening in the world. We know that, all right? But let's focus on the good things, right? Because they are the solutions to getting out of these bad things. And even though we know that bad things happen, we still need to know about them. They don't need to be in our mind all the time. We need to be having this bit of hope, because once we get hope, you see, once you get the democratization of technology, you get the demonetization of technology, you get that wide ubiquitous nature of this rollout. Some of the other problems just fall away, right? And then you can start tackling the big issues like social housing and things like that, right? So we've got people who are homeless already in Australia, which is terrible. You've got people on the streets. You've got all these crime. What are the crimes caused by? If you can analyze this, you can then figure out what some of those problems are. Some of those are government, some of those are monetary, some of those are just getting better help and more people. And one of the things is how many psychologists and psychiatrists and doctors themselves, like getting people the healthcare they need. We can use AI to get more doctors out there, or something similar to like nursing with elevated things to take on some more work, right? So AI can lower the bar because there's a shortage of doctors in Australia as well. And there's a shortage of nurses and a shortage of whole things. We can use AI to augment that and get people the help. And then of course the society as a whole will be uplifted from that as well.
Yeah, well, definitely has a role. Yeah, definitely has a role to be able to communicate that broadly as well. I mean, it said, you know, for example, doctors were looking at ChatGPT and how to deliver medical advice. How do you do it in a way that is actually compassionate and relatable? And we should do that same for science and technology. We need to make science and technology sexy, right? It's sort of like sexy again back into the lunar landings back in the days, right? Everyone was so excited about looking up and looking at how science and technology will progress. And I think the fact that, you know, the Olympics and what's happening with FIFA and all that, the sporting culture that we have, seeing people like Lisa started this conversation today, going back to us learning about soccer, it's such a basic sort of thing that the rules were easy to learn. well, how do we actually make something that's also easy to learn in that scientific and the technological field to make it sexy? So things like ChatGPT, there's no new thing called a reality GPT, seeing how you can interact with physical spaces and make these memory analytics recommendations, those avatars to make it actually engaging and interactive, making it fun. And with the quantum stuff, like the quackers to make it cute and interrelatable and learn from doing, we should turn that into that sort of sporting culture and making it accessible and sexy. So I think it'll be
Well,
really
Japan.
interesting to work on.
Japan has
yes.
something similar. Japan and South Korea have some things like that, right? They actually make science sexy and fun, right? They have like an Olympics of science, and it's all over TV. Like we need to do the same thing for science. It's always been one of my big regrets in Australia, is the fact that science was always looked down on, right? Everyone celebrates sportsmen, but we don't celebrate our engineers. We don't celebrate our scientists, right? And we should, right? We should do it, and we can make it fun. We can make it interesting, but there just doesn't seem to be any will by some of the large media companies to pick this up or whatever it is, right? But that's the solution, right? To drive science to the forefront of what we should be thinking about on a day-to-day basis, because too many people are thinking about all the bad things. But science is basically your solution to your problems, right? It's a potential solution anyway. And the more we know about that, the more we've got people. And this is one great thing about AI. You've got all these people now have access to a great intelligence amplifier, right? And which means the bar is lowered, which means everyone now can contribute to society. Where if you don't have a scientific background, or you don't have a mathematical background or coding background, you can use these tools to now make a contribution, right? So everyone is useful, right? Everyone is, no matter what your background, no matter what your experience, using these tools brings you up almost to a common level. There's always going to be people who are at the top, like the top scientists are still going to be better than that, but everyone is now almost on a level playing field with these tools. And that's what we need to push. And that way, imagine everybody, school children, elderly people who've retired, who think that the world has no use for them anymore. Everyone has a use. Everyone has a contribution to make. And these tools make that level playing field.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the key is also asking good questions. And so how do we teach people of, what they could be asking?
Yeah, that's right.
It is that time to wrap up. I'm going to ask you both your vision of the future. It's the year 2030. You've just woken up. What does the world look like?
Yeah. I mean, this is on the concept of memory overload, being able to offload a lot of that to my AI agents, my digital twin. It's able to already take care of all my messages, whether it's in the form of emails or video calls, or whether it's into the brain-to-brain communication, just overlaying my original thoughts to the other person and making sure there's no loss in interpretation. And being able to actually just enjoy the company of the billions of people around the world that is able to share in this sort of same aligned interest of humanity and celebrate that. And that would be amazing to work up to.
Yes, I'm thinking as same. Like Lisa always talks about Jarvis, right? Having our own Jarvis, right? But we're already there, right? We've actually got tools now. And so same sort of thing, you've got your own AI agent that you can always talk to. You can use that AI agent to communicate to carry on tasks, to remind you, to give you that memory that you're talking about, because I always forget stuff, right? I have to write it down. But if your AI agent can actually doing that sort of stuff, you can pretty much allow it to help plan your day. And also using that technology, and hopefully, we've solved the climate crisis and things like that. So hopefully we've got that all problem solved. We're actually on track to actually to use these AIs to actually solve some of the environmental issues that we've actually got ourselves into at the moment. Yeah. Hopeful. Yeah.
I love the word hope. I'm imagining that in the future in 2030, my Aura Ring could actually communicate to my personal AI and let me know my readiness score for the day. And so if I've got a really high readiness score, it'll enjoy the fact that we can run. They're going to be like, we're running fast today. We're going to give you this, and give you all this inspirational information in the morning as my breakfast diet. and be able to see what I'm capable in a day. But then also, if I'm not so ready for the day, it might be like, you need a happy bubble day today, and it's not going to be any bad news, and everything's fairyland, and it's Disney time, or like there's different themes and vibes and information that's dished up based on your own personal ability for the day. So I think that would be really cool, and yeah, we're just able to maximize human productivity, but then also happiness as well. And we all live happily ever after.
Yeah.
Yes. I love it. It's a good idea.
With that, I will wrap up. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Brendan. Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone who's joined us on Facebook Live, on our social media platforms, and who are continuing the conversation. Always great to see everyone, and have a wonderful day.
Have a great day, Gavin. Bye.